Okay, we are live. Can I get you guys to talk once just to make sure?
Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear that?
Yeah, you're very low though. Keep talking.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh.
Ryan, you need to talk too.
Well, I was waiting for Devin to get through his thing, so you could tell individually what was going on.
Yeah, no, yeah. When we're in the live, it's both of you on one, so I just need to make sure that those levels are good.
Good. Now I can talk over Devin.
Little bit of peek of behind the scenes here. Hey everyone.
Hello.
I think the internet is anxious for us to get started, so I am not going to delay the show any longer. So can't
let the internet down.
Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Devin.
And today it's Morbin time. Today we were talking about the 2022 Marvel, Sony, Disney film Morbius starring Jared Leto. But before we get into that, it's been a minute since it's been all three of us on the show.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It feels good. And there's a slight chance that next week we'll all be in the same room together. So we'll have to see what happens there. But
I can't wait.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a minute. Ryan, how was your hockey game?
It was good. It was definitely something that I needed. Kristen and I have had a pretty tough month and a half.
Yeah.
And even though Kristen really wasn't at first she wanted to go, but then she kind of backed out on it. So I got in touch with my brother-in-law, and it was what I needed, and they won. And I didn't care if they won or not, but they did, and it made it better. So
good.
It was great.
Good. I'm glad it went well. Devin, I talked to you last week, so I don't care how your week's been.
It's been great.
Well,
Thank you for asking.
No, Devin, you're getting ready to travel to the back to the States for a bit.
I am.
How's that going for you?
Yeah, it's going fine. I don't believe that I'm leaving soon because I have so much to do between now and Friday that I'm just not allowing myself to believe that it's happening soon. So I'm just, in my mind, it's still months away, which means I'm going to pack the day of the flight.
And you have a week off you have that time off of work too, right?
2 weeks, baby.
Nice.
Can't wait.
Nice.
A 2-week vacation.
You
don't hear about that in the States.
You know what? You know what I hear when he says that? All of the podcasts. All of the
podcasts.
Yes.
Literally. 2 weeks of podcasts.
Yes.
Never stop podcasting.
Yeah. So, Devin, you've been busy, but in the last week, have you had a chance to watch anything? At the top of each show, we talk about things that we've watched in pop culture. Devin, have you watched anything recently?
I have. Okay, guys, I want to break it down to you. All right, it's that special time of year where Disney starts releasing some weird, random holiday-themed bullshit that we're not entirely sure anybody asked for, but you know what? We're getting it anyway. And because I've been so busy, I've only had enough time to watch a trailer of something.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
It's something, right? I actually have something to contribute to this now.
It's something. It's a trailer from Marvel this week that I have not done a podcast about yet. So
what? Amazing.
This is day 2 of 2 for podcasts for me this week. So, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special trailer dropped today for Disney Plus. Devin,
did we all watch it?
Yeah,
did we all watch it?
We did. Yes.
We did.
At your behest, we all watched it.
That makes me incredibly happy. Thank you, guys. So, what do you think?
I'm all for it. I enjoyed the format of Werewolf by Night a lot, and this seems to be in the same the Marvel special presentation. I'm all for that. Give me short stories about these characters in this world. Make it one episode. Put all the production value into it that you can for one episode of television. Like a mini pilot, and call it a day. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait for this. As soon as they announced this was the top thing for Marvel for me to see.
More than Quantumania? Is that also dropping?
Top thing for me to see this phase.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Ryan, how do you feel? I know you were very you're very on the fence about the Marvel stuff, and I don't know how much.
Quantumania.
The new
The
Ant-Man.
new Ant-Man movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Trailer dropped already for it.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a thing. Marvel's doing stuff still. They didn't go anywhere.
I know they're still doing stuff. To be perfectly I'm on the other end of when it comes to the whole Marvel thing, I'm on the other end of the fence that Alan's on, and I really was like, okay, they're doing this, and then they showed a certain actor that's going to be a pivotal plot of the whole thing, and I was like, okay. That's why I'll watch this.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want me to say what it is. It's a trailer.
I mean, it's a trailer. It's out there. Like,
do it.
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, he is.
You've got two characters go out and try to capture Kevin Bacon to be a present, and Kevin Bacon runs away from them, and that's Kevin Bacon has now entered dead center of the 6 separations of Kevin Bacon or whatever that's called.
Yeah.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, now the whole Marvel universe is now cemented into 3 spots for that.
I mean, this is Kevin Bacon's second appearance in the Marvel universe.
Second?
Yeah, he's the bad guy in Moon Knight.
No, he's not.
Never mind then.
No, he's not. That's
What?
Ethan
That was
Hawke.
Kevin Bacon?
That's Ethan Hawke.
They're the same person.
No, they're
You can't
not.
convince me otherwise.
No, Devin.
Exactly the same.
I've kept my mouth shut a lot. When you've said stuff, I'm not going to now. You do
Hold on,
not
why is
confuse
this your
you
line?
two.
Why
You
is
do
this
not
your line?
confuse you two. Do not confuse those two ever again. I'm telling you right now. You better learn their face.
Totally fair. Totally fair.
I'm not surprised that they got Kevin Bacon for this because he's worked with James Gunn before on the movie Super with Rainn Wilson, where he just beats people up with wrenches.
Forgot he was in that. Yeah.
But yeah, and this is a little bit of a tangent, but did you guys see the James Gunn news that dropped today?
No, I didn't.
James Gunn, along with another producer whose name is blanking on me right now, they're going to be the co-directors of the DC universe going forward. They're going to be the Kevin Feige figure for DC films in the starting November 1st.
So DC's finally learning their lesson.
Yes.
And putting two people and putting you are our team.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's 2 things on the internet today, this week, that have given me hope for DC in the future. The other being a spoiler for Black Adam, and I don't know if I want to talk about it here. But if you want to know, I'll say it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to watch that movie unless it's on an airplane.
Henry Cavill is back as Superman.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And he
doing another movie.
He posted on Instagram that he is back as the character in Black Adam. In a small cameo, but he teased that there's more coming from him as that character. So
I feel like he likes that character enough that Henry Cavill would be Superman until it's inappropriate for him to be Superman.
Mm-hmm.
He would really still. And you know what? I don't hate that because he's very good at it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll throw my hat in on that one.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. Maybe we'll go see Black Adam in ScreenX when you're here, Devin.
Ooh, that would be fun.
But I also realize there's something that I know what we're doing on the 8th now for the show, and I'm going to tell you guys after the show.
Good,
I remember
wait.
it's something that comes out that we're going to have to talk about on the show.
Plans.
Ryan, how about you? What have you watched over the last 2 weeks?
Well, the internet in the horror movie genre has been abuzz about 2 movies that came out recently. One, Hellraiser, and 2, Halloween Ends. I've seen both of them.
Okay, let's talk about Halloween Ends because I've only heard bad things about this.
Me too.
Okay, so the Halloween series is, you've got Michael Myers in a mask chasing after babysitters and
you could have said spoiler alert.
Yeah,
come on now.
So that's the surface. It's also I'm forgetting the word now. That's all Michael Myers is all a stand-in for trauma and how it affects people. Makes them paranoid and fearful and what they do in those situations. Mm-hmm. But it's always been a lot of people are Michael Myers fans, and then the real hardcore people are yeah, but Michael Myers is also a stand-in for trauma. This is what the actual storyline's about. What Halloween Ends does is pretty much turns that upside down, where unless you go into this movie or at least partway through it, go, oh, this is all like just showing how trauma affects a town.
Yeah.
If you don't get that, if that doesn't click for you, you're not gonna like it.
I'm trying to figure out...
Like, I actually liked it. Do I have some issues with it? Yes. Did I enjoy it and probably will watch it again? Also, yes.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what's not to enjoy then about something like that, even if it's not. So, like, in my mind, the Michael Myers movies have always been kind of slashery movies. I mean, you always get kind of the slow walk that he chases someone with a knife, and
it's still slashery. It's still the slow walk.
Yeah, for me, it's like, you do that in a movie, and you kind of got the Halloween formula, and as long as the characters around him are good, and I heard they got Jamie Lee Curtis back, so it can't be terrible.
Yeah.
What were your problems with it, if you don't mind giving it in, like, broad strokes?
It was just... It didn't, like... I know that it was made for a streaming app.
Okay.
So I feel like the budget really wasn't what it should have been for nowadays. Like, it felt a little made for TV-ish. That's it. That's all I really had a problem with. Some things might happen, and I'm like, oh, they should have put more money into this scene.
Sure. Okay.
That's really it.
I mean, it seems like it's just going to be a good movie. Like, is this the end of the Halloween franchise?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, they could have... There are things that happen where they could have started it up all again with like a new thing, but they didn't. So.
I mean, that's good then.
Yet, because again, the whole Michael Myers thing, like that, and I mean, Michael Myers at this point's in his late 60s.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Not to mention, this is the 13th film in the 5th timeline of this franchise.
Yes.
So
is it really that complicated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll send you a graphic to explain how there are different timelines. Like there's Halloween 1 and 2, which are their own thing, and then 3 is like a standalone, and then Jamie Lee Curtis's character's dead in 4, 5, and 6, but then they make those not canon. She comes back for H2O, which is like the 20th anniversary and the sequel to that. And then there's the Rob Zombie films, which are not part of the original timeline and are their own little thing. And then there's this trilogy of films that follows the first film from 1978, and that's it.
And none of the other films.
And none of the other films are canon.
So
that hurts.
So here's my thing. If you don't like this movie, if you didn't like the one that came out before this one, you don't have to recognize them for yourself. You can just enjoy the Halloween movies you enjoy. If you want closure on it, make up your own.
Yeah, I think that statement can be used for a lot of things. Like, if you don't like a series of a show that's based on a book or movie series that you like, you don't have to watch it. Like, maybe it's not made for you, but it doesn't ruin everything else that's in that franchise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This sounded personal, that last bit.
Have you watched Rings of Power yet?
No.
Well, then I'm not going to talk about it.
I heard it's slow.
I mean, yeah, but it's slow, but in the sense of Game of Thrones was slow, like it's taking you somewhere.
Yeah.
Compared to House of the Dragon, where everything's like sped up because you're jumping 10 years every episode. So,
are people saying that it's ruining like the Lord of the Rings for them?
Yeah.
Get out of here, the internet. Stop it.
Yeah. You need to watch that show. Like, that's...
I will.
Since I went on a Lord of the Rings tangent quick, I'm listening to Fellowship of the Ring, and I have finally met Tom Bombadil.
And what do you think of Tom Bombadil?
I can see why they cut him out of the films.
Yep. Underwhelming, huh?
Well, he sings everything, and I'm listening to the audiobook, so Andy Serkis is singing everything.
That's adorable. You actually made me want to download those audiobooks.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you've got a long flight coming up, so.
I do.
But you could also just watch Rings of Power. Ryan, what was the other horror film that you watched?
The other one was Hellraiser. And that one, I will admit, I enjoyed more than the other one. Takes a bit of a different... Like, I know that all this stuff is based off a book. I don't know anything about the Hellraiser books. when it comes to like a modern retelling of let's just take the movies, I enjoy it.
Mhm.
Off of off of off of off of the older Hellraiser movies that I've seen and taking a new spin on things. I like it a lot. I did kind of joke a little bit when it first came out that, like I kind of made fun of it online in a meme a little bit, but that's because I thought the humor was funny. I do enjoy the movie. I do enjoy.
Is it a reboot?
To be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure. I did not look that far into what like it's supposed to be. But if you want to take it as a reboot, which I don't really like using that term, is fine. Yeah, you could take it as that if you want. I don't really see it being a sequel, to be perfectly honest.
I didn't realize these were based on books.
I didn't either until I ran into like a bunch of people talking about it online, and I went into the comment section, and people were debating this movie based off its usage of the content from the books versus the original one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, this stuff is based off a book. Interesting. And then that was the end of my research. So I'm going off comments on the internet here.
Yeah.
Dangerous move, Ryan.
I know, but hey, at least I'm telling you.
All right. Well, shifting gears from horror stories to something I watched over the weekend. Something that I'm surprised Devin didn't watch, considering he lives where they make this stuff and where it all takes place. I'm convinced you live in a TARDIS. I watched Doctor Who: The Power of the Doctor, the final episode for Jodie Whittaker's 13th Doctor.
I think so.
Yeah. Which I have, full disclosure, I did not watch any other episode of Jodie Whittaker because I never finished Peter Capaldi's run as the Doctor, and then didn't feel right starting it, but there was enough in this special that I had heard about beforehand that my wife wanted to watch it, which was the companion Ace comes back. And Tegan. So there's a few companions from old Doctor Who, and my wife didn't want me to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. It made her cry. There are moments in this that made her cry. From the old Who,
Doctor Who does that, man.
The old Who stuff made her cry.
Yeah. Doctor Who definitely does that, especially if you really care about old Who. They did that Matt Smith and David Tennant crossover episode. It made me cry in the theater. It was so good.
Well, there's a moment in this where you get to see some familiar faces, and it's not the one that everyone is talking about at the end.
Okay.
So as a classic Doctor Who fan, as somebody who knows Doctor Who, I think you're gonna very much enjoy this episode.
Yeah. Are you gonna spoil it for me, or?
No, I'm not. I'm gonna save. Oh. I'm gonna save that part for you to discover on your own. I will say one of the smartest things Doctor Who has done in the last few years is recast a certain Doctor with a certain actor. But you get to see some other, it's nice being able to see the first Doctor's face again, along with a few others. As I'm going to leave you at that. So enjoy that for what it is. But I do want to talk about the ending of this, because Jodie, spoilers for Doctor Who if you haven't seen it already. I don't think it's been a secret, but there was a little bit of a question, who is Jodie Whittaker going to regenerate into? Was it going to be the new Doctor Who they announced, or is it going to be David Tennant, who has been announced is going to appear in the 60th anniversary special next year? And she turns into David Tennant, and it's amazing. And David Tennant's my Doctor. 10 is my Doctor. Ryan looks so bored at this conversation right now.
I'm all on board. You have me at the edge of my seat with this.
But yeah, David Tennant, just showing up and being like, I know these teeth is fantastic. It's a very strong ending. It makes me want to watch more of the Jodie Whittaker Doctor. Because I never have a problem with her. I've heard bad things about the writing of the show. Which The writing in this isn't great, but for Doctor Who, like send off, it's pretty good.
That's good. I mean, that's the thing is Doctor Who, like, they always pick these phenomenal doctors, and sometimes they're just let down by the writing staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I had the same thing with Matt Smith, where I thought Matt Smith was wonderful. More relevant conversation to come later. But I think that, like, the episode where he rides a dinosaur in space, or the episode where a space whale thinks she's the Queen of England.
Yeah. Oh, Matt Smith.
These things happen.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair.
Whales and their egos. They're about big. They're about as big as they are.
They need to be stopped, if I'm being honest.
You know, have you guys not seen Star Trek 4 Save the Whales?
Oh, right.
Hey, the old computer.
We talked about that, like, last episode, actually, we talked about
we
Star
did.
Trek 4. It keeps getting brought up.
Yeah. I feel like maybe we have to watch that soon.
I think we might.
Devin, you've seen it, right?
I can forget I've seen it, because all I remember, one scene where whales go by the window, and I went, this is a dumb movie.
Where are your nuclear vessels?
Is that what that's from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We just do a triple feature and it's all movies featuring whales.
Free Willy 2, and then Free Willy 1.
No,
and then
Free Willy 4, the one with Bindi Irwin.
Okay, fair.
I might have another family emergency that episode.
Anyway, speaking of family emergencies, let's talk about the film Morbius.
Oh, God. Oh.
So if anyone doesn't know this, Morbius is a Marvel character in the Sony universe. So Sony has the rights to the character of Michael Morbius, much like Venom. Morbius is a 2022 film about biochemist Michael Morbius as he tries to cure himself of a rare blood disease, but inadvertently infects himself with a form of vampirism instead. I didn't know vampirism was a word until just now. But this is a movie that came out earlier this year, finally, after being pushed back at least 5 times during COVID. It got pushed back at least 3 times in the last year before it came out. But yeah, this is a film that I saw in theaters. I think it was me and like 2 other people. But
how long did you make it into the film?
I had to watch the whole thing because I am the Marvel correspondent for Victims and Villains. I was subjected to watching this. It was not like Clockwork Orange where I had to sit there with my eyes open. But so yeah, this is a film that I'm not a huge fan of, but there are things about this I was pleasantly surprised by. The main thing being Jared Leto, because I'm not a huge Jared Leto fan, but I found him likable in parts of this.
In parts.
Yes. And I think I spoiled some of this film for you guys back when I saw it in April.
You did.
But let's talk about it. What did you guys think of Morbius after seeing it for the first time on, I'm assuming, Netflix? If you spent money on this, I'm sorry, it's on Netflix.
Nope, I didn't.
Okay.
I absolutely didn't.
Yeah.
You want to go first, Ryan?
Netflix all the way. Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll go first because my answer is probably going to be the most surprising. So, I actually kind of enjoyed it. Not going to lie. I really did. I wasn't expecting anything because I figured it was going to be absolutely horrible and I was going to groan all the way through it. So I didn't want to put any expectations on this. And I had a certain mindset, which we'll go into a little bit later, that I had like within maybe 5 minutes of watching the movie. But overall, I actually enjoyed it. And I told Kristen when she got home, hey, I think if you go into this movie thinking this way, I think you might actually like it because I do. And she was like, you're kidding. I'm like, I'm not kidding. And so we watched half of it after she got home. We stopped it. We're gonna pick it. We're gonna pick up the rest of it tomorrow. And she's actually interested in it enough that she wants to finish it.
Okay.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Devin, what did you think of Morbius?
All right, man. If this movie came out in 2003 alongside Ben Affleck's Daredevil, it would be my favorite superhero movie ever. This movie feels like someone like it feels like Evanescence should be playing the entire time in this movie. I don't I don't hate it. I don't love it. I have a lot of problems with it. Some of which I can get into, some of which are weird Devin things. I have a lot of problems with it, but like I would rather watch a 10-hour Schneider cut of this movie like 3 times in a row than hear any second of another Venom movie. If we're comparing apples to apples here. This is a better movie than Venom. I hate Venom. I would watch more of this and less of Venom if I had to choose.
Okay. Interesting take. Are
you there too? Are you not? Are we not on the same page with Venom?
I look at this on the same level as Venom because nothing has really stood out to me from those films that's any better than this. So I think they're on the same playing field. They're definitely in the same universe. Like that's like there are references to Venom in this. I think part of the reason I don't like this film is it just like there are moments that just make absolutely no sense in the grand scheme of the film itself.
Tell me about them. Name
names. Well, we'll talk about the post-credit scene in a bit. I think that's my main issue with the movie. Like that's the thing that really just makes it like that makes no sense at all. But I agree that this is on par with the early 2000s superhero movie.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's ripping everything off from the 90s. You've got a Usual Suspects walk scene like they did with Kaiser Soze. You've got the train fight sequence from The Matrix in here. It tries to be all these different things and it just doesn't work for me as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are moments where Michael Morbius as a character is likable, which I don't really get to say much for any Jared Leto character ever, or even Jared Leto himself.
Also a Jared Leto character.
Yes. You're not wrong. But there are moments like when he's talking with the other doctor, like when she's terrified of him for being a vampire and he like sticks his hand out in the sunlight, like, not that kind of thing. Like there's moments like that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like I was like, I like this character, but then the rest of it's just like brooding for no reason. Like it.
Yeah, but you gotta, right? Like you gotta have the brooding for no reason. That's like part and parcel.
But it's so uneven. Like does that make sense? Like
it does.
Yeah.
I mean, it absolutely does. I mean, it makes about as much sense as like the bat swarming in at the end to be like, he's the better vampire or something like that. Like, didn't need to happen, but you kind of get that it had to because it's this kind of movie.
Ryan, what did you like the film? Let's talk about things that you liked because I don't want to just spend the next 30 minutes crapping on this.
No.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to figure out because of so my mindset, just to get into why I like this, I feel like it's important to finally state this. I have had this thing with like I'm tapped out when it comes to this stuff. So when you said we're gonna be doing Morbius, I'm like, I've been trying to avoid this and stuff like it forever, at least for a little bit. So when I went into this, I'm like, okay, vampire movie. I'm going into this as a vampire movie, not a Marvel, not a superhero, vampire movie. And I really enjoyed it. I like how they took, and granted, I know that this is all based off a comic book character. So the people that originally did this were the writers of the comic book and not the writers for the movie. The whole idea of like a more scientifically accurate, less cultural vampire. With some superhuman stuff mixed in, because like here, you have no garlic, you have no crosses, you have no silver, you have no silver mirror thing, he can walk into a room. He doesn't need to be invited. Like that whole thing. Like,
Yeah.
And it was that standpoint that was like, okay, scientist. There's a scientist that has a chronic health issue. He's doing everything he can to make his life better and to save his friend and everyone like him. And I really connected with him and his friend when they were kids, and then also young adults being in and out of the hospital, dealing with their health issue. I connected to that level of things. And then from there on, I just took it as like an action movie, vampire movie, like a Jared Leto Blade type thing.
Okay. I mean, that is a fair standpoint to take it. Like, if you look at it as a vampire movie, it does some stuff with the lore of vampires that is interesting, like playing with it, like that scene with the light. Yeah. I think my big thing is I'm looking at it as a Spider-Man universe movie, and it does very little, especially when this came out right after Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
Like, and part of the reason for this is like, I saw this trailer every time I went to the movies last year and the year before, because this movie kept getting pushed back. So I kept seeing that trailer where they play People Are Strange, and the part of that trailer that they force down your throat is Spider-Man is in this. Like, Spider-Man's on the wall when he's walking down this alleyway. Like, the Daily Bugle is in the movie. Oscorp is in the trailer. And then half of that stuff's not in the movie.
I was going to say, did I miss Oscorp in the movie?
Oscorp's not in the movie. The Spider-Man mural on the wall is not in the movie. The Daily Bugle is in the movie several times. Right? Yeah, it's the newspaper. But they did such a... And then they tease Michael Keaton's in this movie. So you're like, okay, well, how does that work? Is this in the MCU? Like, the way they marketed this, it made it seem like it was going to play into this bigger Spider-Man universe. And in a way it does, but we don't know what that is until whatever movie they have coming out in 3 years, because the post-credit scene doesn't explain it. And it just, like, it does such a bad job of being the movie they marketed for. Yeah. But it, like, if you look at it from a different standpoint, like as a vampire movie or as a superhero movie from the early 2000s, I guess it works.
Yeah, because I mean, it's. I didn't realize all of that stuff was in the trailer until, like, I told Kristen about it, and then she asked. She was like, "I want to see the trailer," and I told, because she always wants to do that, and I told her, "Don't take the trailer for what this movie is going to be."
Yeah.
Because I hadn't seen it yet. I didn't even remember it, but I still figured this was supposed to be a Marvel movie. The trailer is going to be nothing like this movie actually was, and I told her that. And then after we watched it, I turned to her and I said, half of that stuff isn't even in the movie.
Yeah.
The stuff I know you won't like, not in there at all.
Pretty much.
Which, like, call me crazy, that's a bad way to market a movie.
Oh, no, it is, because you're lying about what it is.
And, like, Marvel does that a bit with the Avengers stuff. Like, there was that trailer for Infinity War where you had the line of the Avengers running in the woods in Wakanda with the Hulk and Captain America and Black Panther. And that's one thing. Like, having a fake action shot in there that's a brief second, like, or removing the Infinity Stones from the gauntlet when you see it in the trailer. Fine. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm fine with that. And you do change the movie partway through production. So maybe, like, something in the trailer doesn't end up in the movie because the trailers are done so early on in the process that things do get cut. But I think in this case, it's a lot more of this was never going to be in the actual movie. Or if it was, they scrambled at the last second and cut all of it. And we'll get into it when we talk about the post-credit scene, because there's a lot to unpack there, and I want to save that towards the end, because there's still a lot about this movie we need to talk about.
Well, hold on. So do you know much about the production of the movie? Because that's what that read like to me, was that this movie was a bit of a mess, and they cut the best possible movie they could. They realized that this movie doesn't work as a Spider-Man movie. They kept the references to a minimum, kept the universe to a minimum, and cut it all out.
I know there were reshoots late last year because Michael Keaton came on Jimmy Kimmel and said about he was going in to do some Vulture stuff for Marvel after they talked about him being Batman again. Oh, wow. So there were reshoots when the movie was supposed to come out in January. They did some reshoots, and then they pushed the movie back to April to change some stuff. So I think a lot of that's what they changed.
Yeah. Feels like it.
And I have a question that I'm curious if you guys picked up on with Tyrese's character, the one detective.
Yeah.
Can you tell me which of his limbs was robotic?
No, not even a little bit.
Left.
Is it left?
Yeah. He has a robotic arm.
That was a total shot in the dark. So he's Dax from Mortal Kombat.
Kinda. Yeah. No, he has. So they allude to him being in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
If you look at the last shot of he's in the movie before the bats come up, you can see he has a metallic arm. And they cut that whole subplot out of the movie.
So weird.
Yeah. So, and I had to pause it and look closely at it when I watched it today to make sure that I was seeing that right. But yeah, they cut a whole subplot with him out completely. Let me see if I can find details on that. Was there anything else that felt weird in the movie for you?
I hate the intro. I hate it. I'm just gonna put my flag in the ground right there. I hate the whole.
Okay, so the intro of going to the cave.
I hate when they started at the cave and then they were like, "Now let's flash back and get you back to that point." I'm so over that. I'm so over the whole. You're probably wondering how I got here. Even if it's a bit cheeky the way Thor Ragnarok does it, that's still my least favorite part of that movie. I just pick a good point to start the movie. If you want, pick 'em as kids like Guardians of the Galaxy did it. Give me that pathos right away, and then show him grow up and show him figuring this out.
I feel like you want it to be like that. I feel like that's why you're mad, because I did not get that at all.
You didn't mind it?
No, it's not that I didn't mind it. It's not that I didn't mind it. I didn't even see it that way. So the way that I saw it was, they go to the cave, this guy, there's no narration there. And so they go back to explain, be like, yeah, this is why Jared Leto said that he was a doctor when the guy asked him if he needed a doctor.
Yeah, I think my problem with it is that I watched the trailer at any point in my life. I know he's Dr. Morbius. I know he's got an incurable disease. I know he gets vampirism from bats. So the second they're like, who is this mysterious diseased person capturing bats? I'm like, that's Dr. Morbius, the guy that I know is going to eventually turn into a vampire from those bats. I know that he collects the bats because one of them bites him. He's probably not doing it on an expedition in his condition. So,
well, I mean, here's my thing. I thought by one of the trailers that I saw back when this whole thing was being advertised, I thought that he disappeared for 5 months.
No, that's in the trailer. That is actually
is it really?
That's actually a line in the trailer.
Okay, good. Because I mean, I was expecting, I'm like, okay, the bats surround him, it cuts, and then I was expecting them to do 5-10 minutes of introducing this character, this character, and that character. But instead it says Greece 25 years ago. I'm like, oh, I wasn't expecting Greece to show up in this movie about some doctor from New York. And then you get where I connected to the movie really strongly.
Yeah. So the scene that we're talking about from the trailer is in the trailer, Detective Strode, played by Tyrese Gibson, states that Morbius went missing for 2 months and was found on the container ship that washed up off of Long Island.
So they do something different even with the container ship in that version of it.
Yeah. And there's a different scene with Michael Keaton in the trailer. The Spider-Man mural that we talked about. There's a scene with Morbius and Dr. Nicholas, played by Jared Harris, on a park bench. And then Detective Stroud and Rodriguez showing up at the same park.
They cut a lot, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay, now to pick up my comment in knowing what they cut, if they come out with like a 3-hour cut of this movie and everything gets added back in, are we watching it? Well, maybe not we as a podcast, but like collectively, like, are each one of us going, oh, the long version of Morbius, and then we go watch it?
I'd probably watch it.
Yeah.
Just because I'm a sucker for this stuff.
I feel like I feel like Alan would enjoy a 3-hour a 3-hour cut that has all of the references to the actual like Spider-Man universe thing. I don't know if I would enjoy it more.
Okay.
Since because like, would it be cool? Absolutely. But then at the same time, to me, it would take more of like a genre that I like, of like a specific monster type, and turn it into a, hey, look, here's Spider-Man, but vampire form.
That's fair. I mean,
in the Spider-Man universe.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of what he is, right? Because I mean, like, even there's a line where like exactly they mug the camera and go, "You're gonna turn human DNA and bat DNA," and I'm like, "Yeah, right," because you're in the Spider-Man universe, and that's just what you did.
She doesn't look at the camera and say that. Stop over.
She looks straight down the barrel.
Stop it.
The same delivery as it's Morbin time. Same delivery.
The more
Morbin Rangers.
The more I read about this movie on the IMDb trivia, the more I'm like, I don't know how much of this is true.
Really?
Yeah, like J.K. Simmons evidently filmed scenes for this movie as J. Jonah Jameson. But it became evident to filmmakers that Morbius did not actually exist in the same universe as Simmons' version of J. Jonah Jameson. As a result, Simmons' scenes were removed from the film.
You're talking about a movie of a studio that was trolled into re-releasing this in theaters for a week just so it could bomb again. I wouldn't believe half of those trivia posts.
I mean, but there's also things that I believe, like Carnage was supposed to be in this movie, but when they reshuffled things around, like this movie came out after Let There Be Carnage.
Yeah.
So
I could see Carnage being in this.
Yeah.
I think that would fit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah. I mean, let's see. Devin said something about this movie having like the Evanescence soundtrack. I disagree.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
I feel like this movie should have had like The Cure music remixed by Linkin Park.
I think in some scenes, I think that whole opening bit could have had Black Parade by My Chemical Romance going on over top of it, and it would have fit totally. Oh no, it would have been totally fine. Oh yeah, when they were kids, you just have that piano bit go. Oh, it would have worked out so well.
No, because they don't have any fathers to take them to the parade.
Well, that guy was the father figure.
No, he's their
father figure. How much work that dad is in that song. Like, way to put so much on your kid's shoulders when he's like 8 at a parade.
I'm sorry, but almost every single awesome Russell Crowe's Robin Hood. It doesn't really get a lot of talk. I love the movie. His character in that is amazing. And his dad did the same thing to him when he was 6. And it helped him be who he was. Which that's a movie we'll be doing on the show at some point.
We just need to stop writing very plot devicey dads. Like, my dad has never once sat me down and go, Devin, can you save the world from me?
Yeah, but...
Because I'll be dead. I mean, maybe that's why I turned out the way I did.
No, I mean, at the same time, how many people in our age group have had to go to therapy because of something their dads did in one form or another? Exactly.
Every single one of them.
So the Black Parade is a realistic, depiction of a dad who raised a millennial.
I love this is where we got. I mean, it's fair. You're fair. You're right. I love this is where we went from Morbius, though.
We wouldn't have our generation would not be flooded with anxiety disorders the way that it is if it wasn't for dads like the one from Black Parade.
Thanks, dads.
Oh, man,
Okay, Morbius.
this is
Morbius.
no. Like my silence now will be very evident in a few weeks when I make you guys watch something that I think my next pick for the podcast, because it involves Black Parade, and I don't want to say anything more than that.
I can't wait. I have no idea what this is, but I'm excited now.
But yeah.
So, one of the things we touched on that I loved about this movie, we touched on it quick, was the bad guy.
Matt Smith?
Yeah, man. I loved it. I loved that relationship. I loved that dynamic. I love Matt Smith. I even like the shirtless dance scene. I'm on board, man.
It's so weird. Like it almost works in this. It's that weird. It's so bizarre. Yeah. It almost works.
Yeah.
Did you guys not like him?
I mean, go ahead.
I liked him. I did. I felt the shirtless dance scene was like, because when they're kids, he's the one that's always on like, what would you do if you could be normal for an hour? And then you've got, Morbius's character who's more grounded and more realistic about, his condition. He's like, well, I try not to think about that. So like, you've got that difference between someone who like would do anything to, feel normal compared to someone who's like, this is my lot in life. I'm just going to do what I can. And then they grow up to be who they are. I like them. I like the villain.
I guess I'm just so torn on Matt Smith as an actor. I never liked his doctor. He's all over the place in this. And I started off not liking him on House of the Dragon. But by the end of it, I kind of liked him. Like, I kind of liked his character. Like, he grew on me. So that's part of the reason I wanted to rewatch this movie. Is like, okay, now that I have a little bit of appreciation for Matt Smith as an actor, let's go back and revisit Morbius. And nothing in this performance really changed my mind about him in this. Nothing changed. I almost went shirtless for this episode because of the dancing scene. But to see that, check out our OnlyFans.
Yes, perfect. Glad you put that one in.
But yeah, we didn't talk any bit about the doctor dad character at all. I feel like there was a lot more of him that got cut from this movie because the stakes for his relationship with them towards the end just don't make any sense with how little he's in the movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of that with not just him, but I also feel like there should have been another scene or two, or probably was another scene of two, with Morbius's one patient that he puts into a coma.
Yeah.
I feel like she should have came back at some point, and she never did. It's like she's just asleep in a room in the back, like just hanging out. But yeah, no, I feel like that there should have been more of him dealing with the two of them. And I almost feel like he should have been a part of the final fight.
You know what would make this movie better? You know what would make this movie better?
What?
So we talked a bit about how it cuts to them in the hospital as kids, and it's just kind of weird, and then that's the end of it. Mm-hmm. If you cut back and forth to them as kids in the hospital and like seeing their friendship and they cut back and forth between them being friends and then being adults, and then having Michael leave, and then Milo getting beat up and turning like dark. Mm-hmm. I feel like that would have made the twist a little bit better when it's revealed that Milo has taken the serum and is actually the one killing people.
I completely agree. That would be amazing.
Well, unfortunately, storylines, classic story beats,
mm-hmm.
the way things are told, I knew he was going to be the villain.
Yeah.
As soon as it started. Like, oh, look, there's Morbius. He's supposed to be the hero. I've seen Unbreakable. I know how these things work out. I know the formulas because Samuel L. Jackson told me. Like,
mm-hmm.
his best friend is going to end up being the villain. And even Kristen, like, we paused it after the whole scene of them being kids. And she paused it, and she looked at me. She's like, all I want is a yes or no answer. Is the blonde kid going to end up being the villain? and I laughed. I didn't want to say it, but I laughed. She goes, okay, I thought so. And then she could play again.
I think for me, though, the way that, I mean, I get that it's formulaic and I get that it's kind of tried out, but I like that it creates personal stakes for Morbius.
Yeah.
I don't, like, if this, like, if like Rhino showed up and is like, I'm gonna destroy New York unless a vampire stops me, like I'd be so mad. And like this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I'm just saying that, like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, great, putting the stakes in there and filming it the way that Alan suggested would have been better.
Mm-hmm.
Just overall, for like the structure of the movie and the balance of between like the friendship and seeing how like like the kids building the friendship and then as adults it falling apart like the same measure going back and forth. That would have been really cool. But it's just one of those things too where like I feel like to me, regardless of when the twist happened, I feel like I would have felt the same. Simply because you can kind of see it happening from the beginning.
I mean, it's the point where like you keep calling it a twist, and I keep being very uncomfortable with you calling it a twist.
It's a twist.
So twisty. Who could have known? It's like
like Shyamalan.
It's like in any Batman thing I've ever seen, where Batman loses his partner in Act 1, or like in the prologue, and then in Act 1 there's a mysterious villain who could be anyone, and I'm like, yeah, it's the partner you lost in the first movie. Got it. I mean, I love it. I still love it, but I just, you get it. You know how it goes.
Yeah. Like I remember my dad telling me whenever I'd watch something, no matter what it was, my dad would be like, he'd say, they're doing it, or they're the villain, and I'd look at him and go, how do you know that? Now I know what he was looking at. I know what he was looking.
So like Ryan, you talked a bit about how this plays with vampire lore.
Yes.
And it does, and I will give you that. But there's a moment in this that I think does play with vampire lore, but doesn't really explain it all that well.
No, this movie does a horrible job explaining anything that has to do with vampire lore at all.
And it has to do with Martine's death towards the end. Okay. Where she dies and then bites his lip and then drinks his blood.
And then he bites her.
And then he bites her and drinks her blood.
Yeah.
Because, Devin, do you know what that does to somebody when you're a vampire?
It turns you into a vampire.
It turns you into a vampire. Did you know that, or did you put that together?
I mean, I knew that because I've seen any vampire media ever. I didn't know that from the movie.
So my problem is, like, I'm fine with them doing that, but it would have made a lot more sense to explain that as part of the lore that they're looking up in the books earlier on in the film. So you at least have it set up that that's going to happen, because otherwise it just looks like she's biting him just to bite him for fun.
Kind of though, right?
Kinda, but then at the end, like when she comes back to life, it's like, wait, oh yeah, I guess they did that thing, but they don't really, they don't do the Chekhov's gun with it. Like they don't like hint at it at all, and they just kind of do it, and it's so random.
Yeah. So I was bored one night, and I decided to troll on a Marvel fan page on Facebook, and I just, knowing vampire lore, not seeing this movie. This happened 4 or 5 months ago. I decided to kind of jump on the bandwagon of like people who were trying to defend it, and I had someone come after me, and it was 4 or 5 responses back and forth to each other, and then I eventually just upped and said, hey guy, I'd never seen the movie before, I just know vampire lore, so how good could this movie be if me, I've never seen it before, could actually get into an argument with someone who has seen it?
and the argument, because you showed me this, the argument wasn't that's not what happens in the movie. The argument is, but there's so much depth behind it that you didn't understand. Like, you still got the beats almost exactly right, Ryan, because of course you did.
Because it's one of those things where it's like, and this is what I mean by anyone who doesn't know, this is what I consider a scientifically, somewhat, I'm using that term very loosely, a scientifically accurate vampire, as in he has echolocation, he has the agility of like someone our size. If we were to be as active as a bat when they're active, he has that that kind of strength. He has other abilities as well, but all of the cultural stuff all of the religious symbolism is gone. Garlic doesn't affect him. Crosses don't affect him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he can see himself in mirrors. He, again, the whole thing about, you know, being let into a house, like he can do that without having to be like let in. And I like this view of it because I haven't seen this kind of a view as of a vampire before. There are hundreds of vampire movies I haven't seen, but there's a lot that I have. And I have not seen this type of a take on it before. And that's what I liked. And that's what I really liked about it. I'm still not totally convinced about his like brotherhood or kingship with bats. That still kind of confuses me a little bit.
He's Batman.
I don't want whatever. Anyway, but I mean, it's like him. My favorite line in this, by the way, is her going, "What is this thing?" And he's like, "It's a fish tank for flying mammals." I absolutely love that line.
Yeah.
Just because you can tell that he doesn't want to tell her, even though he knows that she knows already. And he, says later on, he's like, plausible deniability is a thing. You should be thanking me.
And that's the kind of stuff that I liked about Morbius.
Yeah.
That I liked about the character, like the moments like that, but they're just so few and far between that it.
So do you want to talk about your big problem with it?
Yeah, let's talk about my big problem with it, and it's the Batman of it all. It's the Michael Keaton. Not that I have a problem with Michael Keaton being in this movie. That's part of the reason I went to see that. Like I was willing to spend money to go see this. Let's go through the beats of this, okay?
Let's go through it. Let's do it.
All right. So, Spider-Man No Way Home happens. Spider-Man creates a spell, brings in a bunch of people who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man into the MCU. That's a whole thing that happens on its own. Sky turns purple, people appear, Doctor Strange fixes it all, and everyone forgets Peter Parker is Spider-Man. In the midst of all of that, in his cell in the MCU, Michael Keaton's Vulture is transported into this unknown Spider-Man universe. Knows right away he's in a different universe with no explanation at all. He just knows he's in a different jail cell. I don't know if the paint scheme's different or what, but makes a joke about the food being better there. And then automatically gets released from prison because he didn't do anything wrong in this universe.
Why is he in prison?
Who is
this guy?
Yeah. Like, I would like to think that if somebody did get transported from a different universe, one, if they were in jail, they would stay there. Two, right. The government would kind of keep it secret and not put it all over the evening news. So that
also, I love the just confidence that Michael Keaton has in going, I don't remember this cell. I'm in a different universe. I would walk in and be like, I don't remember the cell looking orange, but whatever.
Yeah.
And would just take it as my problem.
There are scenes cut from the trailer of him actually interacting with Morbius earlier in the film when they're both in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Which are not in the movie at all. Wait, what? I'm sorry. I just read. Remind me to come back to the thing I just read on IMDb trivia because it blows my mind.
Thing, yeah.
Okay. So that's how they introduced Michael Keaton into the Sony universe of Marvel characters. Because that's what they call it.
Weird.
That's fine. Like, okay, if that's what you want to do, great. Then, for some reason, Michael Morbius is driving a sports car in the desert, as you do. That's weird. Then, he stops said sports car at the edge of the desert. Because reasons. And then, Michael Keaton, who is new to this universe, doesn't have a penny to his name, has his Vulture suit. Has a Vulture suit. I don't know if it's the same one he has in the MCU. I haven't looked at closely. I don't care. He has a Vulture suit, talks to Michael Morbius, or or how I'm thinking they filmed this. Michael Keaton showed up one day. They had an audition from Jared Leto that they cut in with his lines, and they put something together. It is the worst edited scene I have ever seen in my life because Jared Leto is not responding to anything that he says with any sense at all. I've been reading up on you, Doc, and I think we could help each other out. sounds intriguing. Like, what sounds like
like what part of that is intriguing?
And then he just name drops Spider-Man, and Morbius like, okay, like let's go get this guy. Like he knows who Spider-Man is, and Spider-Man's been a menace to him at all.
Right.
Not to mention they're teasing a team up, which I'm like, okay, so let's look at what else Marvel's Sony department has coming out that will be part of this team up against Spider-Man, because in theory, if this happens, okay, like. On paper, this sounds interesting at least. So you have Vulture, you have Morbius. We can assume that Eddie Brock and Venom are in this universe as well.
Right.
Next up on the Sony docket is Kraven the Hunter.
Okay, that's interesting.
And then Madam Web.
That is a weird swing.
The Madam Web movie, though, it sounds like they're doing like every version of Madam Web. So there's like a Spider-Woman version of her. And it's going to be dealing with the spider totems, possibly. But that's what we know is coming from Sony so far, along with Venom 3. But
I'm sorry. I cannot wait to have Morbius and Venom and Eddie Brock deal with each other. I cannot wait to see that happen.
Oh, kill me.
I just love those two personalities. Like I feel like that's going to be hysterical.
So my question is, who is their Spider-Man? Like, if Spider-Man is in this universe, who are they going to be going up against? Because I don't.
Daniel Radcliffe.
It's
as Spider-Man.
Let's put a pin in that for a second. It's not going to be Tom Holland, for sure.
Yeah, no.
I think there was a moment where it was going to be, because remember that like 5 minutes where Tom Holland wasn't going to be in the MCU anymore?
Yeah.
I think that's what where they were going. I don't think it's going to be Tobey Maguire. I kind of hope it's Andrew Garfield.
It's like the one thing that would make me really want to watch this is if it was more Andrew Garfield.
I'm sorry?
He said that he wants to be part of it again, right? Like, he's been outspoken about that.
I mean, he's been very coy about it, but he also spent a year doing press for Tick Tick Boom where he's like, I'm not in Spider-Man. I'm not in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So here's what I hope happens. And I feel like I've said this before on the show. At the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, you have Eddie Brock and Venom knowing that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, and they get transported back into their world, and like, we should go to New York and check out the Spider Guy. And then you have, in the same film, you have Andrew Garfield Spider-Man saying, "Oh, I want to fight an alien."
Right.
Venom 3, right there. Like, just make that Venom 3.
It's the only thing that's going to make me want to watch it.
Yeah. And then you can do the team up with, like, have him fight all of these villains. You bring back the Hand of the King from House of Dragons as Lizard, and oh man, like, I guess like if you do the Sinister Six with that universe and this universe, you have like half of the cast of House of Dragons.
I guess you do, and you have Paul Giamatti's Rhino.
Yeah.
Ouch.
But yeah, that scene is just, it's so jarring how poorly done it is that it's aggravating.
So I knew that there were post-credit scenes. There's always post-credit scenes after it was done, after I watched it the first time. And I got to them. And I found the first one interesting, where they do the whole, like, hey, this, it's like, hey, this guy appeared. We don't know who he is. Like, there's going to be a hearing about his release. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then I got to that second one, and you're like, I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. Like, I really thought it was stupid. But at the same time, it's post-credit scenes. So to me, like, they're after the movie. The movie's done. I'm not gonna let
But I think with Marvel, the post-credit scenes have at least, for the last 10 years plus, have been, here's a little taste of what you can expect going forward. Like, maybe giving you a little bit of mystery. Like, what are Shang-Chi's rings trying to communicate with? Or, like, why is Elaine from Seinfeld telling the new Black Widow to go kill Hawkeye? Like, what are the reasons behind this? And this one is just like, hey, you want to go fight Spider-Man? Okay. And then nothing. Like, it makes no sense for the character's motivations. Like, there's no real intrigue as to why. Like, if they had hinted at Spider-Man trying to hunt down Morbius in the movie, or like having a like being hunted by any superhero at all, like it would make sense to me. But they don't, and like it just it seems forced.
Yeah, it seems like they had to put it in there, but it doesn't seem like they were confident in it. They were just like, well, it has to go. So there we go.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I didn't like it.
I feel like they just could have stayed with the first one and just let that set.
In the chat, we have somebody saying, "Say hi to my son, guys." Hi.
Hey
guys. hey son, how are you? Answer back quick.
Yeah. I think part of me just wants Sony to come out on the stage at Comic-Con and be like, okay, here's what we're doing. Like, this is going to lead into this, and which is going to lead into this. And then eventually we're going to have a Sinister Six movie where they're actually going, all these characters are actually going to fight Spider-Man. And here's who's going to be Spider-Man in this movie. Whether it's Andrew Garfield or a new guy or whatever. Like, I want that to happen, and it just hasn't. Because right now, I can't make any sense as to what's going on in this universe.
Well, it feels like they don't really have a sense of it. Like, I feel like they wanted, like, Venom and Morbius to do really well, us to be intrigued in what's going on there, and us to want more of it. And I guess with Venom 1 and Venom 2, sure, it made enough that people are like, okay, I guess we'll take more, please. But I think with Morbius, they're like, oh, did we mess up? Like, it was like the Mummy of their, like, movie franchise. And it feels like the more of it feels more risky now.
But at the same time, like, we haven't even talked about this. This movie became such a meme. Like, we've hinted at the conversation of Sony re-released this movie based on memes. Like, the Morbin Time was trending so much that they thought if we put this back in theaters, people will go see it. And guess what? It didn't pay off for them. But if they were to release a longer version of it and call it Morbius, it's Morbin Time, like that would make money. Like, if they leaned into it and just did the meme version of this movie, like, they would make all of the money. But then every Sony Marvel movie would get that treatment, and we don't need that.
Right. So then, real question: if the line "It's Morbin Time" makes it into Morbius 2, do you guys immediately leave the theater, or do you punch everyone around you on your way out of leaving the theater?
I'm gonna send you specifically a bunch of angry emojis.
What I would love to see is somebody on the team make a Power Rangers joke and then have Morbius turn to like, I thought you said Morbin Time. That makes no sense. Yeah, I know. I don't know why I thought I heard that. Like,
I want the memes to show up in universe. I want them to be scrolling their version of Reddit and be like, "Oh, look, you're a meme now." Like, that's what I want.
Yeah. All right, so going back to the thing that I saw here.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Smith's character Milo wears the clothes that are the same style worn by Jim Carrey's character Stanley Ipkiss in which movie is Stanley Ipkiss from?
The Mask.
The Mask. Which are decidedly different from the rest of the characters in this movie. His name Milo is also Jim Carrey's dog's name in The Mask. He also has dance move and strikes poses throughout Morbius that echo those of Stanley Ipkiss when he dons the green mask. I never thought that he would be channeling Jim Carrey in The Mask, but now I kind of want to go rewatch those scenes just to see that.
It's the tan suit that he wears when he goes to the club.
Mm-hmm.
When Stanley Ipkiss goes to the club for the first time, not as the Mask, he's wearing a tan suit.
Mm-hmm.
And he's wearing sneakers.
Yep.
And so is Milo.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
No, I see it. I definitely see it. And that's so fun. Especially, like, there's that one scene where he, like punches all of the cops and they all, like, collapse. And then he, like, does, like, a weird dance. I was like, yeah, I guess that totally makes sense if we're, like, channeling the Mask there.
They're asking if we can wave. So, wave.
Of course we can.
Yeah. Okay, I think that does it with our conversation on Morbius.
Yes.
So I had an epiphany at the beginning of the show after we said we didn't know what we were going to do next week. Guys, I know we're all going to be in the same state for the Weird Al movie. So I feel like we need to do that or do something for that. So either we need like we need to talk about this, but Weird Al's coming up, so
we're making Twinkie wiener sandwiches because I never had one yet and we need them.
I'd have to find veggie dogs for you.
I'll find veggie dogs for me. Don't you worry.
Okay. So yeah, Ryan, it's your pick next week, so I'll let you decide what we want to do.
So I'm going to do what I was planning on doing last week until circumstances changed. These guys have never seen Ernest Scared Stupid. And even though our show is going to be a day after Halloween, I still find it appropriate to do one of my favorite Halloween movies when I was a kid. So we're going to be doing Ernest Scared Stupid. You can find it. Anyone can find it for free on YouTube. It is on there. I was surprised to find it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, stay tuned for that next week. In the meantime, if you're watching us on Twitch, go ahead and hit that follow button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. You can also listen to You Have to Watch This podcast on all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify. So go over to Spotify and follow us. That way you are always up to date on our shows, and you can listen to the back catalog of every other show that we've done, including other Marvel films.
And other Jared Leto films.
And other have we done that? We haven't done much Jared Leto. Except the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and